Glenn Murray, and I'm from Spoken Word, and I'm here to introduce our good friend here, Dr. Donald Abrams. I've been having fun being an escort all weekend. I'm taking him around and getting to meet him and hear about all their fun adventures. And he is the Chief of Cancer Division at San Francisco General Hospital and Professor of Medicine at UCSF. He completed a 2-year associate fellowship in the program in integrative medicine at the University of Arizona, headed by Dr. Andrew Weill. And they seem to be quite his cohorts, so he seems to channel through him a lot, so things sniffle through, and a lot of information that gets blended and melded. We're here to speak about a lot of ways to stay healthy and stay cancer-free, way to take care of your life. Yesterday we were speaking about a lot of the knowledge of medical marijuana and how medical marijuana can be helpful to you instead of the hurtful things that are out there, as in 420 and different things that are said. So we're really lucky. He's now practices integrative oncology at the UCSF Osher Center for Integrative Medicine. You can check more information out at www.ucsf.edu for more information, and you can look his name up, Dr. Donald Abrams. Thank you so much for coming today. Take care.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back. Yesterday I did talk about medical marijuana, and I guess I could start by talking about that again today. Again, just to recap my career as a physician, I was in my training to be a cancer specialist when suddenly AIDS broke out on the scene in the early 80s, and that became really the focus of my career for many years because many of the HIV/AIDS related problems that we saw were cancers. And after about 10 years of doing HIV/AIDS, it came to my attention that medical marijuana may be useful for patients with AIDS and the wasting syndrome. And then yesterday I explained to you about the 14-year history that I've had in studying marijuana in people with AIDS and cancer. And my interest in my investigation into cannabis or marijuana as medicine got me interested in botanicals in general and the power of plants and what plants can do and how much energy plants have and how important plants are to us. And that's what led me ultimately to sign up for and complete a 2-year associate fellowship in integrative medicine with Andrew Weill's program at the University of Arizona. So I did 2 years of distance learning on the computer, 8 to 10 hours of homework every week in integrative medicine. And then when I finished, I said, I really want to practice integrative oncology. That is, integrating these complementary and alternative therapies into the routine care that we provide our patients with cancer. I work at San Francisco General Hospital, which is the city and county hospital, and our patients, I usually say cancer is the least of their problem because these patients are homeless, they have mental illness, they have injection drug use problems. So I really couldn't practice integrative oncology at San Francisco General because I can't tell these people to eat organic and do yoga because they have much more essential needs. So we have at the University of California, San Francisco, a center for integrative medicine, the Osher Center for Integrative Medicine. And in March of 2005, I started a practice there where I see cancer patients and I, again, discuss with them how to integrate lifestyle modification into their regimen of chemotherapy, radiation therapy, surgery, hormones, whatever. So today, I'm not going to talk about really what I would tell a cancer patient, even though there are likely that somebody in the audience may be a survivor, and that's good. But what I thought I would do would be use some of the information that I give to these patients that may be helpful for preventing cancer for all of us who may not have a cancer diagnosis. But again, the number of people in the United States who will ultimately get cancer is really quite enormous. And I think many people focus on tobacco as the greatest risk factor for developing cancer. And it is true that smoking probably accounts for 30% of all malignant disease. People who mix smoking with excessive alcohol have another increased risk of developing a lot of other different types of cancer, particularly head and neck, esophagus, and upper gastrointestinal tract. But I think what people don't know really is that nutrition and foods that we eat or foods that we don't eat, probably account for 30 to 50% of malignant disease in the Western world. And I think it's largely because we've gotten so far removed from the type of food that we should be eating. Our diet basically should be plant-based with minimal amount of animal fats. And I think that there's more and more evidence that people who eat a lot of animal fat are at risk for a number of different types of malignancies. Certainly fat stores estrogen, and that's why women who are overweight are at greater risk for hormone-responsive malignancies, breast cancer, for example. The body mass index, the ratio of your weight to your height, also should be maintained, and people should not be obese. Obesity is something that clearly leads to cancer, and I think the link between animal fat, obesity, body mass index is really quite clear in a number of malignancies, particularly malignancies affecting women. So I think in our society today, what I attribute to the epidemic of obesity in the United States is high fructose corn syrup. And the introduction of high fructose corn syrup into our diet, which is present in all processed foods, all baked goods, has really led to a change in people's ability to metabolize glucose. And high fructose corn syrup and sugar in and of itself, refined sugar, I think are things that not only add to obesity, but may have a pro-inflammatory state. And much of what we know about cancer today is that it may result from chronic inflammation. And so I'll talk about a number of things that are pro-inflammatory, that is, they cause inflammation, things that we eat, and then a number of things that we should eat that are anti-inflammatory. And let me just turn to one of my mentors, Andrew Weill, who's written a great book that I gave everybody I know really for Christmas called Healthy Aging, in which chapter 9 is a great chapter on the anti-inflammatory diet. And when I see my patients with cancer, I Xerox that chapter. I probably shouldn't say that, it's probably a copyright infringement, but anyway, I Xerox the chapter and I give it to them because I think it contains such useful information. So let me just sugar for a second. Refined sugar, when the body sees a load of refined sugar like that, it's expecting to have it associated with some fiber or the stroma that supports the sugar. So it releases a lot of insulin and insulin-like growth factor. Both of those we now know are pro-inflammatory. And because there is no fiber around with that refined sugar, what happens is the glucose goes really, really low, and people need to eat sugar again to get up, because otherwise your energy and your mood are just going to go like this all day. Now, personally, I stopped dairy and sugar and red meat 12 years ago. And since I stopped that, there have been a number of changes in my own body, but I know that my energy and my mood are much more stable. And in addition, with what we know now about cancer and inflammation, insulin and insulin-like growth factor, I tell all of my patients, please eliminate refined sugar. And really, high fructose corn syrup and any of those sugar substitutes. Andy just recently had in one of his newsletters a review of sugar substitutes and basically said, stay away from most of them, because who knows what these chemicals are. Again, this is my whole point, that we're eating a diet that is far removed from nature and from what we should be eating. So again, dairy, let me just talk about dairy for a minute. There are a number of cancers, prostate, for example, which may be linked to consumption of dairy. I just had a lymphoma patient, and I found in the literature that people think that excess milk may lead to this cancer of the immune system. The story on dairy, how many other animal species drink another species' milk? First of all, not many. And you don't see a monkey walking into a store asking for a pint of low-fat, but why do we drink another species' milk? In fact, most adults do not have the enzymes necessary to digest the proteins and the sugars in milk. The people who retain the ability are people from Northern Europe, where in times of freeze, they needed to be able to live off reindeer milk. So Northern Europeans basically are exclusive in having the gene to be able to digest the proteins and sugars found in dairy. African Americans, Jews, Asians, most people who are not Northern Europeans do not have this gene. So when you stop doing dairy, you realize that you can breathe through your nose, because the old adage that your grandmother used to say that dairy makes mucus is really true because of this chronic inflammation that's set up in people who eat dairy. Your bowel also normalizes. You don't have those sounds that your guts make all the time because you're not eating this sort of cathartic. And you also sort of, your tone of your skin and your body, you're not bloated and you're not swollen anymore when you stop doing dairy products. So how do you tell somebody with cancer who's maybe 70 years old, I want you to stop doing dairy and sugar? You know, one of my colleagues said, gee, that sounds really sort of prescriptive. And, you know, what I tell people is, listen, I'm going to explain to you why I think you should implement these changes in your diet. And I would suggest try it for 2 weeks. And obviously it's better if you're with a spouse or have children, if everybody in the family can buy into this. I have a young 40-year-old woman with recurrent breast cancer, and she came to see me at the Osher Center, and I told her this, and now she emails me back and forth and says, boy, her husband and her son can't wait to get out of the house so that they can eat like they want to eat, you know, because the kid and the husband want pizza, they want ice cream, they want the sort of things. They're not happy with a date with almond butter, which I think is a perfectly sweet dessert that's quite wonderful and tastes like the old Reese's peanut butter cup. So no dairy, no sugar, and then again, no red meat. Chicken and fish should be the staple of animal proteins. Now, Andy, in his book, we sort of argue about this because he sent me a patient and she said, well, no, Dr. Weill said I shouldn't eat chicken. So I said to Andy, why not? You know, I tell people after I deprive them of everything else, I have to give them chicken. And he says, well, you know, it's very high in arachidonic acid, and that produces prostaglandins, and those are inflammatory. All right, so, you know, I have to cut people a little slack and let them eat chicken. But with regards to fish, you know, so many people curl up their nose and say, I don't eat fish. I say you should eat salmon 3 times a week. Salmon is very rich in omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids are out of balance in the traditional American diet, where people have consumed too much omega-6 fatty acids. And so we need to increase omega-3s because they're not only anti-inflammatory, but they're also anti-depressant. So when the people curl up their nose and said, I can't eat salmon 3 times a week, the other fish that are rich in omega-3s are tuna, mackerel, sardines, which are all a little fishy for me, and one that we discovered, black cod. These are the fish that live in cold water, and because of where they are, they need to be fat, and they use omega-3s to make their fat. So stressed animals, as well as stressed plants, we'll talk about in a minute, are actually good for us. And so the omega-3s, if patients won't eat salmon, I say then you must take a fish oil supplement and take 1,000 milligrams of omega-3, what I take every morning, even though I do eat salmon and black cod at least 3 or 4 times a week. But I think on those days that I'm not eating salmon and black cod, that omega-3 supplement is fine to have. So with regards to animal protein, again, you know, people say, well, gee, if I'm not eating dairy, is that like cottage cheese too, and yogurt? And I said, yeah, all of those things, you know, please eliminate for 2 weeks, and let's see how you feel. I just had a patient in my clinic on Wednesday who's following one of these fad diets where he's mixing flaxseed oil, which is omega-3 but also omega-6, with cottage cheese and sauerkraut. And that's all the man is eating. And it's an online thing. I think it's called the Budwig diet. And he told me that, well, he has prostate cancer. And so he found this online, and there's a chat group, and everybody that does it, you know, communicates with each other, and it's like a little cult. And he's nervous that he's lost weight, and he only weighs 145 pounds, and he's 6 feet tall, and he used to weigh 175. And I said, well, gee, I would broaden my diet a little bit, because the concept of starting your morning with some sauerkraut juice and then cottage cheese with flaxseed oil, just, you know, whew, I would lose weight too. But anyway, I need to learn more about that diet. I have people coming to me all the time. I think any of those extreme diets and those fad diets are not right. Just think about eating what's appropriate for the place that you're at and the season. Clint, my partner, is a macrobiotic chef. We've been together for 12 years. He changed my diet 12 years ago, and he makes a lot of sense. And I take his sense and I bring it to my patients. to teach them what I think they need to do to eat right. Fruits and vegetables, organic. They should be organic because we don't need everybody else's pesticides. In fact, your chicken also should be organic because you don't want hormones and antibiotics that don't belong to you necessarily. So I do recommend that people...
Salmon too, I see wild salmon.
Yeah, salmon should be wild salmon instead of farm.
Yeah.
Yes.
But wild salmon is endangered?
It's endangered, that's true. So, can I do questions at the end of this? Because otherwise now I'm forgetting exactly what I was talking about again. So anyway, vegetables. So I wanted to talk about vegetables, organic, and the particular vegetables that I urge my patients to eat are the cruciferous vegetables, vegetables that grow in the shape of a cross. That's cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale. I eat broccoli sometimes 3 times a day. One of our traditional breakfasts is brown rice, broccoli, tofu, and mayonnaise, which is a soy-based mayonnaise, and some herb salt. If you need to eat 6 to 9 servings of vegetables and fruits a day, of course you have to start at breakfast. There's nothing wrong with eating vegetables at breakfast. I mean, people might think you're a little weird if you're doing it in front of them, but so what? You know, we don't care what people think. Cruciferous vegetables have indole-3 carbinol. And I was shocked to get one of my cancer newspapers a few months ago and see U.S. government at National Cancer Institute now investigating new compound as anti-cancer treatment. What was it? Indole-3 carbinol. Hello. It's in broccoli, in cauliflower, in Brussels sprouts. We don't have to make this into an expensive drug. We need to eat it. And again, they've made it available in capsules. So people are taking capsules of indole-3 carbinol. Now, okay, that's okay for people who really like the Bush family won't eat broccoli. Good. Let's never mind. Anyway, I forgot we're filming. I think that it's better for us to get these nutrients and these phytonutrients or plant nutrients directly from the plant and not take a supplement. But again, for people who absolutely won't eat these kind of vegetables, I just had, again last week, a 78-year-old gentleman who had both stomach cancer and lung cancer, both of them surgically removed, came to me to try to find out how to prevent another cancer. And I said, well, look at your diet. You only eat meat and potatoes. Do you ever eat vegetables? He was Russian speaking and his son was interpreting, and his son said, no, he's never eaten vegetables. And somebody like that who at 78 years old, I'm not going to get him to change his diet, nor is his wife going to change her cooking habits. Maybe he can do a supplement. Fruits, heavily pigmented fruits, are really very potent antioxidants and anti-inflammatories. Blueberries, I think, are one of the most potent antioxidant, probably anti-cancer foods that we can eat. So blueberries and all the berry family, pomegranates as well, all of these things, anything that's heavily pigmented is good for you in the fruit family. With regards to tomato, is that a fruit or a vegetable? Is it beneficial? For men, this is the only potential value of eating pizza is the tomato sauce. Otherwise, I don't want to dump on pizza because I see a lot of it around here, but the tomato sauce for men who have prostates, lycopene in the tomato sauce gets into the oil when the tomatoes are cooked in oil. Raw tomatoes aren't as beneficial for the prostate, but when it's cooked in a sauce, the lycopene in the tomato has been shown, in fact, in men who have prostate cancer and then get treated for a month with a heavy lycopene diet or lycopene supplements, that when their prostate cancer is removed, it's actually downstaged and has become less aggressive and smaller after that 1-month diet. Other sources of lycopene that we don't think about are watermelon and red grapefruit. Grapefruit, people need to be careful about if they're taking other medicines, because grapefruit really antagonizes the metabolism of many drugs by working on that liver cytochrome system that metabolizes many drugs, and grapefruits can alter that. So I wouldn't dose too heavily on grapefruits. Drinks, things to drink. Never anything in aluminum cans that's a can full of chemicals that are not anything that we were meant to put into our bodies. I mean, why would people drink toxic substances from aluminum cans. It's because we live in a country that has an industry that's so powerful, almost as powerful as the got milk industry. Here I'm telling you not to drink milk, and now I'm saying don't drink those carbonated beverages in cans. That's really heretical, and I'm sure they're going to come after me. But, sparkling mineral water and green tea. Green tea, again, there were so many articles in the medical literature about the potential cancer treating and cancer preventing effects of green tea last year that the FDA did just what they did this year with marijuana. Last year, June 30th, they issued a statement in 2005 saying there is no evidence that green tea prevents or treats any cancers. But they are investigating EGCG, which is the active polyphenol. I won't even say what EGCG stands for because I always get the syllables mixed up. But they are looking at this again in tissue cultures and in animal models, and already in men with early stage prostate cancer, it's been demonstrated that green tea prevents that early stage from going to full-blown prostate cancer. The number of cancers that green tea seems to prevent or help decrease is increasing. But again, one of the problems, and I may say it right now, is how do you do these studies? I mean, if I want to do a study showing that green tea is beneficial to preventing cancer, what do? Randomly assign this side of the world to drink green tea 3 times a day and this side never to do it? Well, you can't do that in something that's so widely available. So can we do it in animals? Well, rats and mice are not people, so that's less appealing. So what we have to rely on is epidemiological evidence and look at people in societies where they consume a lot of green tea. Asia, for example, Japan and China, and look to see what their levels of malignancies are compared to places where green tea is not consumed. So I think green tea, again, is important. I personally drink 3 cups every morning, large size cups. The research has shown that you need 10 cups of green tea, but those are Asian teacups, those small little thimble type things. So I figure 3 full-size mugs of green tea is good for me in the morning, and that's what I do. Spices that we should use more of, if possible, are garlic, ginger, and turmeric. Turmeric is really big right now. At the Society of Integrative Oncology meeting and at even the traditional cancer meeting, the American Society of Clinical Oncology, which was held in Atlanta last month, there were many, many presentations on turmeric and its ability to prevent tumors. There's a mouse model of colon cancer. These mice develop polyps and they go on and develop colon cancer and they die. They were fed turmeric and the mice not only didn't develop the colon tumors, but their survival was much, much longer than the mice that were not fed turmeric. So since we heard this, Clint, who cooks all the time, throws turmeric in rice at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we eat a lot of turmeric. Whether or not that's enough turmeric is unclear. Again, people are doing capsules of turmeric, but I would prefer, again, to get these phytonutrients in their natural state as much as possible. Although, one thing that I don't think we can get as much of as we need in the natural states are the beneficial effects of mushrooms. And Paul Stamets, who with Clint and Andrew Weill, I would say are the 3 people that have influenced me most in my new career pathway of being an integrative oncologist, is a fabulous, brilliant mycologist who has taught me the power of mushrooms and the interconnectedness of everything in the world. And I personally start every day with CordyChi, which is a mixture of cordyceps, which is a mushroom that grows on insects, particularly caterpillars, and it's known for its sort of male vitality, if you know what I mean. And reishi, which is Ganoderma lucidum, which is a mushroom that the Chinese take for longevity. There are other particular mushrooms that are very helpful, Shitake, mitake. We do tend to cook with these and eat those in their natural state, but I think it's important, and I urge all of my patients with cancer and people trying to prevent cancer to take some sort of a mushroom extract. Mushrooms are immune modulatory, they're antiviral, they lower cholesterol, they do many, many things. In fact, I was at the International Medicinal Mushroom conference a year ago, and Andy Weill gave the keynote address. And he said, you know, mushrooms do so many things that modern Western doctors will never embrace them as a treatment, because the focus in Western evidence-based medicine is to find the most targeted therapy, the drug that does one single thing. And if you have a drug that lowers cholesterol, increases blood pressure, or perhaps decreases blood pressure if it's an adaptogen and can do more than one thing, that's antiviral, that's immune stimulatory, that's anti-tumor, you know, nobody's going to believe it. Okay, fine, let my colleagues not believe it. I'm taking my mushrooms every morning. And I do recommend that people also take some sort of a mushroom supplement and eat as much of mushrooms as you can. But let me say, not white button mushrooms. They are not particularly good for you. In fact, they may contain hydrazine, which in and of itself is an anti-cancer, is a cancer-causing agent. White button mushrooms should never be eaten raw. Actually, no mushrooms should really be eaten raw. White button mushrooms, if you need to eat them, should always be cooked because they do have this hydrazine. And portobellos, which we all love, are just big white button mushrooms overgrown in the same family. So, you know, there is this little controversy about mushrooms that people need to be aware about. So as far as diet then, again, I think I've outlined for you not only what I tell my patients about eating well, but I think what we should all follow, you know, if we can, to just eat sensibly and eat, again, what's appropriate. I don't buy processed foods. We don't eat food from cans. We try to buy everything organic. Again, one of the problems is that this tends to be more expensive than most people can afford, unfortunately. I mean, we live in a fast food nation. Everybody, I'm sure, has seen Super Size Me and realizes that the disease that is poverty is basically a disease of malnutrition because people eat garbage, and you are what you eat. So think about that when you put something in your mouth. There's so much healthy food here at the Oregon Country Fair that it's really very refreshing. But there is some stuff that I might, you know, sort of avoid myself. But if you're out there on a fixed income, living at the poverty level, it's much easier to go buy a hamburger, French fries, and a giant Coca-Cola for $1.79 than it is to buy one apple that's organic that might cost the same price. So it is a problem, and I don't know, you know, how to get over that, because we should have healthy food available for all people and not just people who are well-to-do. So supplements for cancer patients, depending on what type of cancer they have, they may need different supplements. What about a healthy adult or youth? What do we need? Do we need to take a supplement? There's a little controversy about vitamins and whether supplemental vitamins are necessary if you're eating healthy food. Personally, I take vitamin C. I take 500 milligrams in the morning. I don't take a multiple vitamin. I take 400 international units of vitamin E. And, you know, there was a study that said vitamin E doesn't prevent cancer, is of no benefit, but they gave it to very sick old people, and there was no way that it could show a benefit. And these are the things that get published in the New England Journal of Medicine because they're sort of debunking these beliefs. So I contemplate taking vitamin D because it's been shown that vitamin D is very important in preventing some kinds of cancers, but as you can see, I get my vitamin D from the sun, and I know many of my dermatology friends are saying, you're an oncologist and you expose yourself to so much sun. Well, it is important to get vitamin D, and it's best, again, to make it naturally. So sunshine 10 to 15 minutes a day, and in fact, now they think that sunblocks, total sunblocks, are not good because then you don't make the vitamin D. So calcium is another supplement that those of us that are over 50, both men and women, need and may have anti-cancer benefits. So I take a gram of calcium. Women should take 1,500 milligrams if they're over 50. Again, this is for bone health, both the calcium and the vitamin D, but they're also good for preventing a number of different types of cancers. So, you know, as far as vitamins go, that's what I recommend. As far as other supplements, again, I also take coenzyme Q, 60 milligrams, because in talking to Andrew Weill, he said, gee, I have a family with cardiac problems, and that's a cardiac protector, but it doesn't have much to do with cancer per se. Melatonin is something that in high dosages has been shown to be very useful in patients with lung cancer. I take some melatonin sometimes for sleep, and I do recommend that patients try to use melatonin before they move on to the benzodiazepines, the sedative hypnotics that we physicians prescribe a lot of. The melatonin, when I take it, I know it's doing something because it gives me bizarre dreams, and it also makes me a little groggy the next morning. So if you take a 3 milligram melatonin pill and bite it into quarters and put a quarter under your tongue, it works a little better, and you don't get that sort of a drugged effect. And whether or not melatonin is a protector of cancer, I'm not sure. I don't think there's enough information on that for me to really recommend that. But again, the only other supplement I might recommend besides vitamins would be a mushroom extract. Now, we've talked about taking things in and energy in foods, and I think one of the important things that we need to realize that makes us a society that's obese is that we don't expend energy the way our ancestors did when they were hunters and gatherers, and that we need to expend energy as well as take in energy. So I think that exercise, some sort of regular exercise routine, is very important. And believe it or not, even for cancer patients, I recommend that they do something. Even if it's walking half an hour a day, studies have shown that women with breast cancer who exercise or who walk 3 hours a week have an improved all-cause survival compared to women who don't. So walking a half an hour a day is good. But I also think it's important to sweat. I don't know, there's something I think about getting toxins out of your body. So I like to do something more aerobic and have people also do something a few times a week that makes them sweat. Again, both for men and women, to keep your bones strong and your muscles toned, I think some weight exercises, some resistant exercises are also necessary. So I do recommend that patients get some hand weights or go to a YMCA or a gym and work out with a personal trainer and get some sort of a regimen for themselves so that they can increase their bone health and their muscle tone. So exercise, again, in addition to being good for bones and muscles, is an antidepressant. When you exercise, you release endorphins and you get a little bit high. Also, it helps you sleep better. And sleep, certainly in my cancer patients, think about if you had a diagnosis of cancer, it wouldn't be the most restful thing for your mind because you'd always be thinking about it. Exercise at least tires your body out and allows you to get some sleep. The mind that I just mentioned does impact the body. And the mind-body connection, I think, is very important in cancer patients and probably also in preventing cancer. I think that all of us are aware that negative emotions cause negative energies and that we should try to live a life as free of stress as possible. And our mind really does control much of our body's physiology. If you're stuck in a traffic jam and you got to get someplace and it's not moving, that you get, and you're releasing all this adrenaline, and that kills your lymphocytes. And your lymphocytes are the building blocks of your immune system, and your immune system protects you from getting cancer. So the point being that if you can choose peace and de-stress by whatever mechanism works best for you, then I think that's an important thing to learn. Now, many people think that breathing in and of itself, just becoming conscious of your breath and just taking the time to flow with the in and out of your breath calms you down. I was just listening to an interactive guided imagery CD because I'm trying to learn interactive guided imagery so I can do that in the clinic. And the person said, picture a clock. And 12 o'clock, when the hand is pointing to 12 o'clock, is when you're at the peak of you're stressed and your hairs are standing on end and one more thing is going to tip you over the top and then when the hand goes down to the 6, picture that you're in a space of bliss, you're just floating, you've had a nice massage, and And then they said, when you get yourself to 12 o'clock, stop, take a deep breath, and as you're exhaling, watch that hand go from 12 to 6. So that's a little bit of both breathing and so-called guided imagery for those people that need a little bit more of a guide to get you to a calming place. Now, I must admit, during my fellowship in integrative medicine, one of my goals was to teach myself a practice of meditation. And I don't know what it is. I'm a Gemini, neurotic, Jewish, multitasking doctor, and I can never get myself into that state. I was shocked at the Ritz sauna today to see how many people are sitting there, apparently meditating, or the person that got a massage before me said, I'm going to go sit over here in the corner and meditate, come get me when you're ready. And I just never can figure it out. And it was my goal in 2 years was to become a meditator, but it didn't happen. I'm sorry, the closest I got was when in the program when we had to go to Tucson for a residential week, the woman facilitating our meditation did a group process, and I almost got there. I was much better at hypnosis, apparently. The guy who did the hypnosis on us told me, you really went out. So anyway, hypnosis, again, if you can't meditate, and you have stressors, if you smoke cigarettes, hypnosis is a good way to consider smoking. I mentioned smoking does cause 30% of malignancies, but diet and nutrition account for slightly more than that. Another way to stop smoking is acupuncture. And traditional Chinese medicine is something that I recommend for all of the cancer patients that I see. It's a whole different system of medicine, and it's all about balance and restoring the yin and the yang and the balance in the body. Actually, Andrew Weill at another event said that to summarize in a phrase, traditional Chinese medicine is about expelling the evil and supporting the good. Modern Western medicine is more or less entirely focused on expelling the evil. So I think it's very important for people to have that balance and have the evil expelled while the good is supported. And for the people that come to see me in my integrative oncology practice, I tell them that's what we're doing. I'm supporting your good while somebody else is expelling your evil. But personally, I never had been to an acupuncturist or a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner until I did the program in integrative medicine. And part of the program was we had to go make visits to different practitioners. And I had this tendonitis on this elbow for about 1.5 years. And I went to this guy who used to be the president of the American College of Acupuncture, and he did needles only in my ear and shined a light on my groin and gave me an herb patch for my elbow and 3 tea bags, and it went away, and nobody else could make it go away. And that's pretty magic, but we know that acupuncture works for nausea and vomiting related to chemotherapy. They're looking at it now for dry mouth from radiation therapy. The whole essence of traditional Chinese medicine really makes a lot of sense to me, to the point where I feel like in a past life I must have been a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine, because it really resonates with my beliefs, and it's very different from Western medicine. So I do recommend that my cancer patients be seen by one of our traditional Chinese medicine practitioners at the Osher Center and get themselves in balance. Whether or not Chinese medicine can prevent cancer, I don't know that. Again, I recommend reishi, Ganoderma lucidum, which the Chinese take for immortality, as something that people should be taking every day. But I don't know that the whole system prevents cancer from developing. So when I see a patient, then what we talk about are, as we've talked about today, nutrition, supplements, energy expenditure, that is exercise, mind-body medicine, guided imagery, meditation, breathing awareness, also traditional Chinese medicine. And then for my cancer patients, I always ask about religion and spirituality, which are quite different. Most patients, when they come to a doctor, are not asked about religion or spirituality. And if you have cancer or any other life-threatening disease, I think studies have shown that patients do like their doctor to talk to them about religion or spirituality. In fact, one study showed that people who are strong believers in religion would love to have their doctor pray with them. Well, I don't go that far, but I do ask my patients about their belief system, especially patients who are getting closer to the end of their life. I just want to know that they have some sort of system or belief or community that may be there to support them. Now, again, I mentioned that I was Jewish. I'm Jewish by tradition. I believe they wanted me to be a rabbi, but my temple folded after my bar mitzvah, so I figured that was not a good sign, and became a doctor instead, which is okay, you know. But, you know, I do, after working in HIV and AIDS for so long and seeing so many of my friends and partners die of this disease, you know, it became clear to me that there must be some bigger force out there that's in control. And with, again, another thing that I learned from Clint was to chase solar eclipses. And in March, I saw my 10th total solar eclipse. And for me, the first time I saw one was 1994 in the Atacama Desert of Chile, which we were up at 12,000 feet in a Judean landscape where it looked like there had never been rain recorded. And I watched the moon come and he faced the sun from the sky, and I saw the sun's energy coming out with my naked eyes, and it become a 360-degree twilight, and I said, wow, you know, there's something going on here. If the moon were 240 miles less in diameter, we would never see a total solar eclipse. So it just made me believe that, you know, there is a bigger something that's in control and gives sense and meaning to things. And I think that for people living with cancer, or for people living in fear of cancer, or for people living, that having a belief in something like that is empowering and gives hope. And in these times of craziness from our government and the world, that having a belief, you know, and I just ask patients, well, do you find spirituality in nature? You know, because for me, I go to the ocean when somebody dies, because again, that's another sense that there's bigness that's bigger than me and my problems, and that, you know, there's regularity and periodicity, and the world is here for a reason. So I think on that sort of level, I think I'll stop my remarks at this point, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, and thank you for your attention. Yes, sir.
In a recently publicized study, the largest ever done with prayer in post-coronary patients, it was suggested that prayer has no efficacy whatsoever in post-coronary morbidity. Your sense about that?
Prayer in post-coronary morbidity. Well, actually, the largest study that was done prior to that was done at San Francisco General Hospital, where prayer groups prayed for patients in our coronary care unit, and they prayed for one half of patients and didn't pray for the other half of the patients, and the patients who were prayed for did do better. Now, I've been involved in studies of distance healing as well with patients with HIV, where the first study showed that patients who had intentions of good health sent to them by healers did better. But then our reproduction of that study, that was a larger study, and it included nurses who were trained to be distant healers, showed actually that the nurses maybe did better than the healers, but neither one did better than no healing. But self-prayer, or, you know, I don't see how it can hurt, you know. I don't see how it can hurt. Andrew Weill always says that the degree of evidence should be directly proportional to the potential for the intervention to do harm. So if I'm telling you to eat a lot of blueberries, you know, you're going to say, well, where's the evidence? Well, you know, how many research dollars should we spend on showing that blueberries are good for you? Or massage, which is another thing that I ask all my patients to get. It's similar to prayer. I mean, is it going to hurt? I don't think it's going to hurt for people to pray for their own health or for other people to pray for them. And whether this is something that can actually be studied in using modern tools of Western science is unclear to me. Yes?
First, I'd like to share with the group that here in Eugene we have a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. They're called Joy Lane. Twice I have had flare-ups of ulcerative colitis, and both times after the examination, whatever little pills they gave me stopped it in its tracks on 2 occasions. So I want people to know that they exist here. But the question I have to you, more than one person that brought up to me now that there's information that soy might not be all that good for you, that might have some harmful effects. Have you heard of that?
Soy, that's a very good question. I didn't talk much about soy. Again, there was a study published from Hawaii that suggested that Japanese Hawaiian men who ate tofu more than 3 times a week were at greater risk to develop Alzheimer's. And Clint basically cut us off tofu for a few weeks and decreased the amount of tofu that we ate. And I said, how many Americans with Alzheimer's have eaten tofu? Do you think? I mean, now, I think soy is very important because, again, men, prostate cancer, phytoestrogens, anti-testosterone, good. Women, breast cancer, if it's hormone responsive, do you want to take plant estrogens when we're trying to prevent estrogens from... So there is a very big controversy about soy products in women with breast cancer that hopefully Andrew Weill and I are co-editing a textbook on integrative oncology for Oxford University Press. It'll be out sometime in 2007, and I hope that the author of the nutrition chapter will really hone down on this soy cancer controversy. I know that women in Asia are much less likely to get breast cancer than women in the United States, or even Asian women who move to the United States. And we think that the real benefits of a soy-rich diet in women to prevent breast cancer occurs during adolescence. And once you have breast cancer, or once you're an older woman, it's probably too late to have an impact. But I eat soy. Yes.
One of the things that would link that question and that question together is as far as the healing, the power of prayer, and about soy. I lived in Hawaii quite a while, and if you did it on Asian men, I like to study international foods, and I like to understand, they have more of an intensity, maybe perhaps they're more intense, more driven, and as a culture. And I know that seems terribly biased, but in dealing with them on a medical level, I've seen this. So the intensity of that, and then maybe increasing in whatever, is one possibility. Also, the idea of prayer, I wonder do you think that there's if a person knows they're being prayed for, or if they have self-prayer, it's the act of being present at this time. It's the act of being present and not being anxious or about the future or worried about the past. It is the healing factor.
Yeah, no, it would seem to me, yes, that you're correct, that would be a mechanism. Again, decreasing stress,
they don't study
centering, well, it's hard to figure out how to study that, Yes?
What about sea vegetables?
Sea vegetables, good source of iodine. Again, something natural, something that's for cancer. I don't know how much they've studied sea vegetables in cancer. You know anything? I don't think. Yeah, the macrobiotic diet, which is a diet that was, aimed at sort of starving tumor cells. It's not something that I could recommend to patients because it is fairly rigid, but it does have a lot of seaweed involved in it, and they do believe that may be one of the things that helps heal.
It's a complete protein as well. Seaweed is a complete protein. Is that all the amino acids? So
Yeah.
It's extremely powerful.
Yeah, no, it is healthy.
Whales eat it.
Healthy. Miso soup and yeah.
You have healthy people just, I guess, to check up.
Healthy people at the Osher Center for Integrative Medicine, which is a new center at the University of California, San Francisco. And in fact, I've just been named the director of clinical programs of the Osher Center. I like to see patients with cancer because I believe that's best for me. But my colleagues there are some internists who may be able to see healthy people and counsel them. At this point in time, I'm focusing my energies on cancer people. Yeah.
Those unwilling to consume wild salmon, for whatever reason, could you expand a bit more on the use of flaxseed oil instead?
So flaxseed is a plant, omega, and I think, and so fish oil is what people would not want to eat even the fish oil?
Yes.
They,
They're sort of strict vegetarian.
I see. Yeah. So then, So flaxseed. I would recommend. I think the most potency is from taking fresh flax seeds and grinding them and using it like that. But I do see in the market flaxseed oils. But what concerns me, and I haven't looked closely enough, is that they have 3, 6, 9. So they have the other omegas instead of just 3. And the goal is, if you're not eating an omega-3 rich diet, is to downplay your 6s and 9s and increase the 3s. So I'd have to look at the content of that. But my understanding is that grinding flax seeds and pouring it on cereals or whatever, salads, is probably the best. But a friend of ours gave us a big giant jar of already ground flaxseed, and Clint said, ridiculous, because it's going to go rancid and you have to do it fresh each time. So we just threw that out. Clint, I've been talking about Clint. That's Clint, my partner. He's the man that got me on this pathway many years ago. And actually Paul Stamets, who I talked about right here, is the mushroom man, so we've talked about him as well. Andy is not here. And Paul's speaking at 3 o'clock down at the front room on mushrooms and the power of mushrooms. Oh, right here? I thought it's down there. I saw your name down there, yeah. All right.
Front porch.
You're here at 3, so he's there. All right, thank you all for your attention.
Again, let's give it up for Dr. Donald Abrams. All right, so we're supposed to breathe, take long, deep breaths. I'm a Gemini too, so I've been trying all my life to mellow out just a little bit. So I learned a lot today. I think we can do everything that Dr. Donald Abrams is saying here at the fair. We can get a little sunshine, we can eat a lot of good food, do a little bit of sweating, lift them heavy backpacks, run all around, get to everywhere in town, take in as much energy, give out that love, get rid of that stress, leave it behind, and just take care of each other. And thank you again so much. For reaching more information about Dr. Donald Abrams, you can reach the website where he is at www.ucsf.edu. And Paul Stamets, are you www.fungi.com, Paul?
That's it.
www.fungi? Okay, you can reach more information about him, see him 3 o'clock today. And Dr. Andrew Weill, we've got the healthy aging. And then yesterday we were hearing about Rob Bresney talking about I have a dream. So keep your dreams, believe that we can cure us all, and thank you again for coming.
you.